Hello, welcome to Introduction to Yoga Therapy. I'm developing this course on my own through the Mount Royal University Yoga Therapy program. I'm a 200-hour yoga teacher, and I've done, I think, about 400 hours already at Mount Royal in the last year, a little bit more than. And beyond that, I also practiced yoga regularly under the guidance of Swami from India for about 2 years, probably more than that, and another 2 years or more with Korean yoga, Dawn yoga, um, and then a lot of my own practice with videos and friends and lectures and reading books. So I have a lot of different backgrounds, and today I was thinking about that. What exactly, like what tradition, right? Because people are always like, well, I do Kriya yoga, or I do Dawn yoga, or I do, uh, you know, what are some of the other really popular ones? Hatha yoga. And everybody has an idea of what Ashtanga yoga is, and we all have an association with those words, but those are our Western association of what those words mean. And our Western history is to take things and analyze them and interpret them and then own them in our own way. So we've sort of done that with yoga too. However, what we've done, I think, really is taken bits and pieces of the stuff that we like the best and that makes the most sense to our Western mind and incorporated that into something that we call our own yoga practice, and then we identify with particular kinds of disciplines more or less, so we put ourselves underneath that umbrella. One of the things that I like about the yoga therapy program at Mount Royal is that we've just been exposed to all different kinds of yoga, all different kinds of philosophies, all different kinds of backgrounds, all different kinds of methods, and all geared towards the same general goal, which, if you boil it all down, really has, well, from what I've seen, it's really all about dealing with the trauma of growing up and all the different problems that you had to face and solve in your own way in your childhood and your adulthood, and then what you're left with is a body that has a lot of armor and a psyche that has a lot of defensiveness, and issues that arise from those problems eventually become physical manifestations of your illness from going through a very hard life, which I think most people have. And I heard about a lecture, I think it was Gabor Mate, and one of the ladies got up right away and was like, I'm fine. I had a great childhood. I really have no particular issues. And within 5 minutes, she was crying. Because nobody has a great childhood. Everybody has issues. There's always problems. There's no such thing as a perfect life. And if there was, we wouldn't be here. Our lives are melting pots for spiritual gain. And although a lot of people are largely unaware of the spiritual nature of their lives, they are nonetheless having a spiritual experience. And you can tell by people's end of days reflections, where most people don't talk about how they wish they'd made more money, or they wish they had worked more, or they wish they'd spent more time worrying or gaining things. They usually talk about relationships with the people that they had and how they were lacking in time or attention, or that they didn't pay attention to the spiritual side of things, enjoying life. So what I think I've done with the yoga that I've learned is I look at it like it's a grocery store. So you have your choice of what you want to focus on. And you go through the aisles. And my role here would be your guide, where I'm taking you through the store and saying, there's this that would work for you, there's that would work for you. You could try this, you could try that, and then your job is to try those things and see what resonates, what works, what you like, what you don't like, because our Western mind says, oh, if we don't like it, I'm just not going to do it. But yoga philosophy says maybe try it differently, try it less, try it more, try it upside down, and see if you can get some benefit from doing that. And you probably can, as long as the Koreans were always talking about pushing yourself, but with love. So if you're in a difficult posture, or you're trying to manage your diet and maybe pay more attention to your thoughts, then you would spend more time disciplining that part of your life. That will be a challenge. And if you force yourself, you can do it. But you may actually be practicing an imbalance by doing that. Whereas if you coax yourself with love, you will get the benefit from doing it as if you had forced yourself, but you will experience a deeper understanding than if you just made yourself do it. So I'm talking about that today because I've been loosely using the chakras, trying to experiment to figure out ways to organize this. So this is our basic chakra system. And our understanding of it as people who can't see the chakra is limited, right? We have to kind of take it, someone's designed this system, there's probably a reason why. Take it with a grain of salt, believe it or don't believe it. It's written in stone or it's not. And I have been working up through the body system. So loosely, this is the bottom of your body, and then we work our way up. So yesterday or last week, this was the uterus area in the female, below the belly button in the male. And now we're into the solar plexus. So above the belly button, you think of this part as a yellow color. That's the association that we have. It's seen as yellow. However, what I've heard from people who can see chakra is that it's not necessarily like that at all. It can depend on the person, what kind of state of mind that person is in, and it can also change based on the person who's viewing, because I am inside my aura. I'm looking at you outside of my aura. The color of my aura will affect how I perceive what's going on with your spiritual body, if that makes sense. So I try to get the basic gist of the information and not really worry about too much of the semantics. And I've had people say, you should make sure that you're pronouncing the Sanskrit properly, and you should make sure that you're, really accurate about where this information is coming from and who said what and where it came. No, I don't think any of that matters, actually. I think it's kind of like jazz. I trained in jazz, and I was raised by a jazz musician, so who came up with jazz? Where did it come from? Well, we have this whole history, and we can tell you the history of jazz. But how accurate is it? It's not accurate. It was written by someone who wasn't there. Later, after it happened. History is always written by the winners. So all of those details I try to leave out of the picture and focus on what works and what doesn't work. So thinking about the chakras is a really good organizational tool. That's why I have this little yellowish crystal. I don't know if you can see the tone of it. It's clear, but it's got a little bit of a yellow hinge to it. And then if I was going to work maybe with some meditation, I could just place it and use that as a focal point where I would just be looking at the crystal with intention of paying attention to just that crystal, so that everything else sort of fades away in the background. or I could use it on my body. I could lay down and have it just resting. Here's my belly button, just above the belly button on the chakra. That feels really nice. It's kind of cooling. The crystal has a cooling quality to it, and this chakra is associated with fire. It's your digestive fire, it's your will, and it can cause a lot of problems if it's out of balance. Um, Basically, yoga is trying to get us towards a balanced life, so that we have enough strength to do the things that we need to do, but we also have enough rest on the other side. We have personal fortitude, but we're not a rock. We have the ability to be permeable, to let people in, but we know how to keep people out when they need to be out. We know what's ours that we can take care of. We know what isn't ours that we need to make sure is not taken on. And a lot of the balance postures are good for just getting into that whole idea of balance. So tree pose, where you have one leg up, is a really good practice for anyone who feels at any point that they might be getting out of balance, taking on stuff that isn't theirs, or not taking on stuff that is theirs. And we talk about asana as right exercise. So that's what most Western mind thinks our yoga is. Okay, yoga is going through these physical postures, and we call this, and this is this, and that's that, and this is a mudra, and you know, like it has these elements that we experience as being yoga, but that's not what yoga is. It's all about a whole system of organization that the asanas usually, really traditionally used to support long periods of meditation where you're sitting in silence, not moving at all, which is very difficult for the Western mind. We don't necessarily embrace that and have trouble doing it. It's not easy. So the chakra system, I don't know if you can see the board really. It's kind of maybe crooked for you. Let's see if I can get you closer. So, can you see that there? That's my basic, again, I have a little light here to bring God into the picture for us, where I just welcome divine guidance. You don't have to think about it as God if you want. You can call it whatever you want. Doesn't even matter what you call it. Words are just symbols anyway. But the idea that there's something greater than us, a guiding force in all of our lives that is taking us towards where we need to be. So we have yellow, third chakra, so root, sacral, and then the solar plexus is our will or our ego. So someone who has strong will would be someone like me who just says, I want to go back to school, and I just go back to school and I figure out how to manage my life, and I get a music degree, and then I decide I want to do yoga teacher training, and I just go and do it, and I figure out the details along the way, and I decide I want to do yoga therapy training, and I just get into the class, and again, I'm just figuring out the details as I go. That's someone who has strong will. They usually are very forceful, and they can easily get out of balance with that because you can't force your life on other people, and you can't force what you want constantly, and if you do, it's exhausting. Or there's the other side, which I've also done quite a lot of in my younger life, where I really didn't want to make any decisions. I didn't want to be responsible for anything, and I let other people take the lead role in my life about things that they really should never have been in charge of. And then I suffered greatly. So those are the two extremes, you know. Either you're the boss and you're always the boss and you're in charge all the time, or you're never the boss and you're not in charge at all. And either way, you're out of balance. What we need to be is flexible. That's the thing about the asana. That's what the Koreans were always talking about. Flexible body, flexible mind. When you have flexible mind, you know instances where you have to make that decision and say, okay, this is how I'm going to run my life at this time. And other points where you go, okay, my family needs me more, or my friend needs me more, or right now my long-term goal needs to take a back seat to what's happening. And you're okay with just letting that go for now, because you'll get back to it. If you need an extension, you ask for an extension. You know, it's a matter of that flexibility. So it's a little miracle. Like I describe yoga as have everybody having the same secret lover, where you go out on a couple of dates, you're not really expecting anything to happen. You hit it off, things are going well. The next thing you know, you just want to spend more and more time with yoga. And then, you know, if you keep doing it, you want to do it every day. And then when you don't do it, you don't feel good. And then you start to see how it is affecting you more and more mentally, emotionally, physically. And you get along well with people who are also interested in yoga because we all have the same boyfriend. Anyway, so the note is E in our Western scale. The mantra is Ram. So if you're chanting, you can chant Ram. You could use the note E to chant Ram. It's called the Manipura chakra, or lustrous gem. I like that one, lustrous gem. It's the fire, the digestive system. Um, and there's some postures that I wrote. I like stick people. I used to do posters for concerts all the time, and I just draw stick people. People loved it, you know. It's very basic, but everybody knows what it is. So here's our basic warrior pose. This one is really good for the strength that you need to develop in your life. So if you're one of those people that is feeling pretty weak in their lives and they don't really have that strength of will, even though they may know that they need to do something like change jobs or get out of a relationship or move into a new place or stop doing something or start doing something. That's the other thing about yoga. There's yamas and namiyas. Can't remember how that's called. But it's behaviors that you pick up and behaviors that you drop. So you pick up more healthy behaviors, and as you're doing that, you start naturally dropping unhealthy behaviors. So a healthy behavior for someone who's having trouble with their will would be to practice this warrior posture, which is really quite liberating when you think about it. So I'll just show you really quickly from seated. We have proud shoulders, and then the arms are just coming up on an inhale. And try and keep the shoulders down. Hands are facing each other like this as you're coming up. And then you have kind of a lunge going on with the legs. So this lunge posture, what does that imply? Like, what do you think of when you see that? A lunge. You know, well, you can't do it if you're weak, and you're probably getting ready to go, right? Like, if you think about runners, when they're getting ready to race, what is happening with their legs, right? They're gonna go. They're gonna win that race. And this is the same kind of action. And then, of course, we want to do it on the other side. So if we have right leg dominant on the one side, we want to turn around and do left leg. And then for me, I have some issues with being really dominant right leg, so I would do left leg again because I'm trying to create more of a balance between the two legs, and that's happening more and more for me, where I'm creating more strength and more flexibility, stamina in my left leg. So I'm doing that for the last year and a half. And then boat pose, which looks really silly, but that's a Navasara. Navasara. I don't know. I'm terrible with the Sanskrit, man. Asana. Navasana. So boat pose. And we're thinking about the seat of our will and the abdominal muscles. So to get into that, we're just going to let the legs rise up. So you can lean back to get into it. And then as the legs come up, the arms will join. And then you think of it again, you can have palms together, or you can experiment with where the arms are too. Like there's traditional postures that have been written out and kind of dictated as this is what it is and this is what it isn't. And I think that there's a lot more room for experimentation in those postures. So boat pose. Basically, you just lift up your legs, lean back, legs up, arms out. And if you roll back, you roll back. But I'm sitting on pillows, that's why. Okay. And then the seated twist. So there's different varieties of the seated twist, and you can make it pretty complex if you want. You can do different things with your legs. You can have them crossed over. But basically, we're just twisting. Twist the torso, and then with the top of the body, you just look over the alternate shoulder. So if I'm doing this side, right up, right elbow on right knee, left hand behind the body, looking to the left. And then every time you exhale, you can go a little bit deeper, which is really good for digestive fire. And then, of course, you do the other side. So left leg up, over the knee, left elbow to the inside of the left knee, right hand to the back of the body, and then look over the right shoulder. And always exhale completely. We're working when we inhale. We're relaxing when we exhale. So there's 3 really easy asana. And I really wasn't going to record the whole thing, but I think I'll just show you a little bit of chant, because people get very in their heads about chant, and they think it's singing, and they think it's weird, and they don't want to do it, or they don't want other people to hear them doing it. It becomes a very source of drama and insecurity and issues of self-importance and performance. So chant is not any of those things. Chant is the idea of giving the mind a focal point. So we're going to focus on the candle. We'll just stare at the candle. We're going to focus on the crystal. We're going to stare at the crystal. Or we're going to put it on our body and feel it. It's just a matter of giving us something to focus on. So with chant, the focus becomes, well, for a lot of people, the production of sound. But I like to think of chant as the vibration of the body as a chamber. Because sound is vibration, right? Sound waves. Vibration. And when you think of it that way, then hitting the right note. What is the right note? What is right? Who says it's right? Why is it right? It's the same thing as language. It's because we agree. We have, as a group, agreed that this is my hand, that's a candle, but it could be called something else, right? So let's see what guitar I have in my case today. I think it's Bluey. Good old Bluey. And it is Bluey. This is the guitar that my dad bought me when I turned 20. And I needed a professional level guitar because I was playing gigs already, playing music for money. And I was playing a very old, nasty, not nice guitar. So we think our idea of music is right, but that's just because of colonization. Would the Africans have the same scales without colonization? No, they wouldn't. They would have come up with something different. The same with India. It's all borrowed information. I have a minor in anthropology, so I know all this kind of stuff. Like, I have a different perspective about the origin of things and the idea of self-importance. It's one of the concepts of anthropology, that no matter where we go, we're always looking at things from our perspective, and our perspective can be seen as the right perspective, but that doesn't make it the right perspective. It's not. Everybody's got their own way of looking at things, so that's okay. So E, we have Ram. So I'm just going to show I'll do 3 ohms on E, and then I will switch into using Ram. So I'll probably close my eyes. And when I first started singing professionally, people would be very upset that I had my eyes closed because they felt I wasn't connecting with the audience. But really I was closing my eyes because I find it a lot easier to feel the music when I have my eyes closed. Because when you have your eyes open, you're taking in all this information and it takes up a lot of space in your brain. When you close your eyes, you become a lot less self-conscious about who might be looking at you or who might be thinking something about what you're doing, and it frees you up to just do it. So let's do that. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So the body of the guitar is the body of the person. The string is the vocal cord. The string by itself makes the vibration, but you can't hear it without the body. When you focus on the body vibrating, if you're working with the chakra, I focus on that area as I'm singing. It's nice to play the guitar because it actually sits right there. It sits right on that spot. The seat of will. And then when you're chanting, you can hear the vibration changing and moving and things in the voice because we have blockages. And when we're working with the chanting, we get the opportunity to remove those blockages through the chanting. So sometimes you have to stop, you have to cough, you have to drink, you have to, your voice will crack, you'll lose the note completely, you'll have to kind of start all over again. And that's all fine because you're removing those blockages. So that's why it's not singing. Singing would say, okay, I was flat, I was sharp, I had, improper breath control, I sang at the wrong time, I sang too long, I didn't sing long enough, and none of that applies here. It's just about creating the sound and enjoying it and focusing on the sound. So I did Om, Om, Om. Om is the original sound, the first sound, and generally interpreted as meaning God or creation or the universe, or however you want to look at that. And then I sang Ram. Ram is our mantra for our solar plexus chakra. It's very powerful. I like it, right? Ram. And then I sang Om again 3 times because we like to have groups of 3. In Catholic, we say it's the body and the Holy Ghost and all that, God and Jesus, and we put them together. But in traditional practices, it's the mother, the father, the child, right? Without procreation, there is no humanity, and our relationships to each other are our sacred relationships. So, Om, Om, Om. Shanti, 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 Om. Shanti means peace, and that's what I want to share with you today. If I had participants in the class today, at this point I would take them through the postures, and not necessarily even these postures, right? Because it would depend on who was here. If everybody here had like more of my say, issues or imbalance where they force themselves to achieve goals and do things, then I probably wouldn't get them to do warrior or boat pose. I would probably just have them laying down and working with shavasana and doing meditation and using lots of blankets and pillows and supports to try to get them comfortable, and some twists, because the twists are really good, and we show the seated twist here, but I would probably have them laying down in a reclining twist, and see what comes up. And then the thing about yoga as a therapy is when I have people moving through different postures that are addressing whatever they're struggling with right now, suddenly they'll have a memory, or they'll tell me something, or they'll, something will come up because it's been buried in their body, but they hadn't really made a conscious connection to how that experience has been affecting their stomach pain or anxiety or whatever it is, perfectionism. And then they have a release, and we're able to move on from there to help them. And in a class setting, I would be spending my time between different participants, and I probably have people in different postures. I probably wouldn't have people working in the same general position, because everybody is different and everybody has their own things that they want to and need to and should be addressing. And I don't really decide what that is. I say, do you want to lay down? Do you want to stand up? Do you want to sit down? And we go from there. So I am practicing the discipline of sharing what I have learned and the things that I now know, because I think that I am supposed to. I feel that I am a teacher, and I have been teaching for 17 years, music, and I believe that I have, a thing, a way of doing yoga and thinking about yoga and exploring yoga that is valuable and helps. I have seen it help other people, and I wish that people weren't afraid of what I might do to them. And I have the idea that people are concerned, I will put them into uncomfortable positions and force them to stay there for long periods of time, which is actually the opposite of what I do. I try and put you into a comfortable position and then make you as comfortable as possible, and then see what comes up from there. So I wanted to say namaste. I hope that some people will watch this video, and I hope that people will join me for my introductory class. Next week I will be working on the heart chakra, so we will do some heart opening exercises and focus on relaxing and accepting and letting love into our lives. Namaste.